Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All righty. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio, the way it should be heard. Listen to this. I have an important announcement to make. Due to technical difficulties, the Facebook Live transmission will be discontinued today, just for today. This will be corrected, and we will continue broadcasting on Facebook Live for the next show. We apologize for any inconvenience. Now, you can follow us. Please follow us on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. So remember, Facebook.com/TalkTainment for today and only today is down. But you can reach us by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. Your question will not be answered today, but it will go into rotation, and we will get to it as we will get to it. Okay, we are in the eighth area of people activity, which happens to be the area of sex. But as you well know, Mr. Fuller will answer in any question. It doesn't have to be on topic, which is sex today, but he will answer and has been answering your questions. So make sure that you call and get your questions asked. And as he mentioned last week, please, when you do ask the question, make it short so that he can be focused on answering your question. I know a lot of times you have a lot to say and want to mix it all in there, but make it short that he can answer it, and then we can keep it moving. With that being said, let's go to the phone lines. And what line are we on here? What line are we on? Hello, what line are we on? Line number 1? What line? Line number 1? Line number 2? Oh, 3, okay. Line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller. Go ahead.
Okay, gentlemen. Mr. Fuller, I would say that I've been codified the greater part of my adult life, and I just want to know, are you noticing or have you noticed over the years that most non-white females are not so interested in codification, and they're not as interested in the 200 questions before sexual intercourse? So what are some suggestions, or what do we do when, most females that you run, non-white females that you come encounter with, are not interested in solving the race problem? Like it seems like the men who are interested in solving the race problem or having some solutions are being paired up with women who are not as serious about the issue.
Well, that's not my observation, except to say that you're correct about, it's been my observation that it is correct that most people are not interested in solving the race problem, because they don't see most people look at the race problem as something you run into every now and then when you happen to be walking down the street and there's what you call a so-called white nationalist parade or a Ku Klux Klan parade or something like that. Then they say, oh, there they are. They're those troublemakers. They're those people who are causing, all of this problem, whatnot. Yeah, that's them. How many of them is it? Well, it looks like to be maybe about 120, all right? Yeah, now they're the ones. Yeah, right. They don't look at the race problem as being a problem that is saturated everything. It's nothing that you can touch that is not the race problem. You just reach out and touch anything, any book, a door handle on a car, and all like that. It's all dominated under the racist system. Everything on the planet comes under racism, comes under the system of white supremacy. Everything, every move that you make, every plan that you make comes under that system. That's what people don't see. They say, oh, I don't have time for all this racial stuff. I'm busy. I mean, I got some plans. I mean, I don't have time just standing around talking about, white and black and all that other stuff. I mean, that's boring. I mean, that's old stuff. I mean, you all need to get a life. You hear people say that, and they're sincere. All right? But then what they don't understand is they are born in a system that's dominated by mistreating people based on color. I don't care where you go. And sometimes you're middle-aged before you realize that. You have just about, you're 55 years old and been in all kinds of trouble, and you've been wondering about why you're in trouble and why you're running into all these problems and all like that, and you're a person of color, and you're 60 years old, and finally you say, wait a minute. It seems like everywhere I go and everything that I do, I mean, I'm just having so much bad luck. It's not bad luck. You're in a system that is designed to cut you off at everything that you're going to do that's ever going to be of constructive value, period, if you're a person of color. That's what it's designed to do. Now, sometimes it makes some misses, and you get a lot of things done, and a great number of people do, but you're still up against that system that even shouldn't be there. It would be a whole lot easier if the system wasn't there. Whatever you have accomplished, you would have accomplished a whole lot more if that system was not in place. And I don't think anybody could deny that. So, see, people just don't realize it's, like you're a fish born in water, you're not aware of the water because that's all you've ever known. It's only when you happen to jump, if you're a jumping type fish and you jump up out of the water, you suddenly realize you better get back in this water. Why? Because that's the only thing you're accustomed to. And if you use the analogy of the Shawshank Redemption, it's when the character Red, played by Morgan Freeman, saying, in a prison, after a while, you become what they call institutionalized, meaning you don't even want to leave the prison because you've gotten so used to it because that's all you ever knew. And you want to stay there and suffer in the prison because everything outside that prison is scary. Why? Because everything that you have ever done has been in tune with the prison that you're in. And when you're out of it, even though you're supposed to be so-called free, it's scary. Everything outside of the prison is like a person who is being beat every day with a whip every day. When the beating stops, they go around looking for somebody to continue the beating because that's all they've ever known. And that's the condition of black people right this minute in 2017 all over the world. We are so conditioned, just like Martin Luther King said about the song, been down so long, it looks like up to me. You've been down so long that being down looks like you're up. And that is the condition of black people all over this planet in the system of white supremacy. Even we are flatlined. We are spread out on the pavement. I mean, that looks like progress.
Yes.
All right? Our minds are just that far gone. All right? We don't have an idea of what progress is, even when we make. So, when you just happen to get up on your knees and then get up off on one knee, and then two knees, and now you're standing up and whatnot. I mean, it feels strange. It feels like we're out of place. I mean, hey, get me back to the ghetto. All right? Oh, I got to hide. Oh, this is scary out here. Because we're not used to it.
Yes, sir.
Because we've never been there. It's like being on another planet.
Okay. Charnice Woods and Root Dog. Charnice, we're working on that problem. Things are overlapping. Just a lot of things going on, and we're trying to fix that. But thank you for your observation. For those that are just tuning in, just remember, due to technical difficulties, the Facebook live transmission will be discontinued for today. This will be corrected, and we will continue broadcasting on Facebook Live for the next show. Now, we apologize for any inconvenience, so please follow us on TalkTainmentRadio.com and a whole host of other little things that we are going on or doing as the show is progressing. Let's do this. TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge it's easy for me to say, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. And now here are a few that I am required to mention to you. How about this? Pastor O Speaks. This is Orlinda W. Hawkins Brinkley. She will be speaking about the kinsman with Malika Rue. And, of course, some of us, the Senior Agenda with Lisa Stocksdale. Now, all these shows are exclusive to Talktainment Radio, and you owe it to yourself to at least go to the page and select a few shows and give a listen. Try it. You might like it. All this from TalkTainmentRadio.com. Click on programs and their scheduled times, and you'll find out why we say that this is radio the way it should be heard. Hi, my name is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. This is like a classroom, an online classroom where Mr. Fuller is the teacher or instructor teaching us about suggestions on racism, white supremacy. And we taking your phone calls at 1-877-932-9766. Or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, MrBobby@gmail.com. Can't get us on Facebook just for today only. That is Facebook.com/Talktainment. For today only, you can't get us. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to the phone lines, and we are at line number what here? Line number 2. Okay, line number 2. You are on with Mr. Fuller. Make it short and sweet, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bobby, and good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, sir.
I have a statement, a brief statement, and a question. I heard Mr. Fuller on one of the broadcasts. Mr. Fuller, I would love to make a donation of that Saving Private Ryan video, which you mentioned you didn't have on your shelf. So if you had a P.O. box or something or some way that I could contact you and get that out to you today, I would feel that I've at least accomplished something in life.
No, I actually have. I have that. But I don't
you do have
to look at it. Yes, I have a number of movies, about really, I guess maybe about 12 or 15, but I have a list of movies that I intend to put on my website that comes to about 52. Most of them are, when people look at that list, they'll say, man, most of these movies, Fuller must be an old dude, because most of these movies are real old movies, and a lot of them are just flat out corny. And a lot of them ain't even got no black people in them. And he's talking all this black stuff. There ain't no black characters in the movie at all. Well, see, the movies are about lessons.
That's right.
You got to think outside the box. It's not,
sir.
Well, I ain't looking at nothing unless it got some black people in it. Well, now you're confining yourself. You should look at everything in the universe and try to figure out what it is. Why? Because you're in the universe. I don't care what you're looking at, a leaf on a tree. You should ask, how come this leaf is different from that leaf? How come all leaves are not the same? And what does, this leaf is called a what? It's called a tea leaf. Why? because you can get tea out of it. Now, what's this leaf over here? That's an elm. Well, what's the difference between a tea leaf and an elm leaf? Well, the elm leaf, for one thing, you can't get tea out of it. All right? So that's something maybe, hey, in a pinch, you might need to know. The difference between a tea leaf and some other kind of leaf that you cannot get tea out of it, particularly if you're trying to get a drink of tea. Okay? So black people have been taught just to think in ghetto terms, even our so-called education. They say you are now an educated black person. They're not telling the truth. No one is educated because there's no such thing as the end of learning. That's why I always start off this program saying what? I'm still learning.
Yes,
because you're always supposed to be in a learning mode. But the white supremacists say you have now graduated, and now you have now been educated, and here's a certificate with my signature on it saying you are now an educated black person. Go forth into the world. And then the white supremacists look at each other and wink as you go down the road searching for your destiny with your sheepskin in your hand, like you now know everything, when really they'll play the game on you. You haven't even got started.
Well, you
haven't even got started, and they know that.
You just actually brought me to my question, if it's a brief question. What I'm hearing, Mr. Fuller, is that basically we've been domesticated away from our natural selves. We're almost like farm animals. At least that's the way I see it. We're like farm animals, and
that's what they call us, animals.
Yeah, the men.
I was to them. They're nothing but animals anyway. They ain't got no brains.
I grew up. My mother insisted that we watch nature shows when I was younger, and I learned some principles. I would see how, if a lion or a pride of lions get attacked, they don't run off and get the elephants to help them. They fight themselves. Even antelopes, when they're attacked by lions, sometimes they seem like they're outmatched, but they will, in certain situations, turn and face the lions and fight them as a group. And I see that we have been, just domesticated to the point where men don't act like men anymore. When something happens, they pull out a camera instead of a gun or a weapon to defend themselves. And I think that contributes to the lack of respect that the white supremacists have for us, because they see that when they attack us, we want to hold hands and sing and take pictures and talk about our rights. But in nature, you don't see that happening. When you attack even a mother with her new kittens, you go and try to attack her, and she will fight you to the death. So I'd like for you to, if you can, speak a little bit on that domestication. And if there's any videos that, I could help you with your library, I would be honored to assist you with that. So if you can speak on that domestication, particularly of the black male, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much for your service.
Well, I speak of it every week. I'm speaking of that. We are prisoners of war. See, I figured out, you used the word domesticated, we can say institutionalized. We can say we've been bamboozled, like Malcolm X said, and whatnot. We can use a lot of terms to describe our condition, and I do this in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. But I'm saying since so many of us are in what we call, the code calls greater confinement, because, when they put you in what we call the orange jumpsuit, that's just greater confinement, because you're already in jail, but you're just put in greater confinement because you're born in jail, all right, because the system of white supremacy is a jail. Wherever you are on the planet, if you're black and you're born on this planet, you're already in jail. You've been born in jail. And so since so many of us are in greater confinement, that's why I use that as the top example, you might say. There's a lot of examples I can use. I can use a lot of terms I can use: domesticated, tamed, beaten down, whatever. I can go on and on and on for days using different terms to describe the same thing. But most black people understand, particularly black males, what jail is, all right? because we're afraid of jail. But most of us know that that's where you can look up and down the block. That's where most of us are headed at some point. Most of us are going to wind up in jail at some point. Why? Because the white supremacists, that's the plan that they have for us, all right? That's an industry, okay? So they know that when we are born, 10 babies just been born, probably in a hospital ward right now. And they look at them and they say, black males, they're all black males, and there's 10 of them, 7 of them are headed for jail. You can bet that. That's a guarantee. Why? Because we are going to guarantee it. We got that already set up. We know what's going to happen to them. Their mothers don't know. They're kissing on them and taking pictures and whatnot and taking the pictures down and showing that everybody on the job, this is my little baby and all like that. What she doesn't know is he's going to be dead or in jail at age 16. That is guaranteed in the system of white supremacy. Understand that, ladies, all right? You might as well go and get your flowers and balloons and all like that, because that son that you're carrying is going to be dead at age 16 on account of the white supremacist environment that's set up around him is going to guarantee it, or he's going to be locked up. And if he manages to escape it, consider himself super lucky, because it ain't supposed to happen. I'm going to repeat that again. It ain't supposed to happen that he escapes that. And every black female out here now who's carrying a baby got to understand that. You're going to be working those 2 jobs just about for nothing, because that's what it's going to come to. You're going to get a call on your job, on your second job, all right, that you went to in the evening after getting off that first job, because it takes a lot of money to raise an offspring now in 2017 in the Northwestern Hemisphere. And somebody's going to tell you, rush to the hospital right now, because your 16-year-old who was on that bus stop got into some kind of beef with somebody, and he's now in the hospital, and they don't think he's going to make it. Okay. Count on it, ladies. Count on it.
All right.
Count on it right now.
Right now.
You're carrying a baby right now, but you can count on that's where that baby's going. On account of what? What we talk about on this program every week. The system of white supremacy is going to guarantee it.
Mr. Fuller, Root Dog wrote this, said we can't make this up. An African-American school teacher, DeAndre Harris, a victim of a beating by neo-Nazis in Charlottesville in August, has been, ready for this, charged with assaulting the white supremacist who beat him with boards, iron rods, and brass knuckles. This is correct. Harris, in photos released by Truthout, carried worldwide, was shown being beaten close to death, has now been charged with the same crime as his attackers. Unlawful wounding is the charge. Several of Harris' attackers remain on the run, and local and federal officials show little interest in going after them. Yet, a Charlottesville magistrate issued a warrant to arrest Harris yesterday, or on October the 9th. Harris is accused of taking a swing at a neo-Nazi who tried to stab a friend of Harris's with a staff of a flagpole holding a Confederate flag. It should be noted that our photographer, Zach Roberts, was also attacked with what appears to be a wooden flagstaff by a man identified as Dan Borden of Cincinnati, one of those charged in the Harris or attack on Harris. White supremacist Borden, hours before attacking Harris, threw the mental tip wood at the photographer Roberts' head. Our photographer remained calm enough to photo the weapon as it whizzed by his head. A magistrate judge, without talking to witness Roberts, issued a warrant, according to Lee Merritt, DeAndre's attorney, apparently on the complaint of lawyers for the white nationalists. Roberts, for Truthout, spoke with Merritt, a legal specialist on police brutality, and corruption, said this is probably the most extreme case I've seen. Not only is the victim charged with the crime, but he's charged at the same level as the men who broke his bones, who caused serious bodily injuries, caused him to get 18 staples in his head. The men who beat him with an inch of his life. Harris is getting the same charge as those involved in a violent racist, a violent supremacist group who were involved in the attacks, not only of DeAndre, but the attacks on other people. Charlottesville police have charged 2 of Harris's attackers, but only after a national campaign led by the New York Daily News. One of them, Dan Borden, is shown beating Harris with a 4-foot piece of lumber. The other, Michael Remus of Georgia, who claims he acted in self-defense, is shown striking the Harris with brass knuckles while Harris is crawling helplessly on the ground. So far, federal officials have taken no identity to the man holding what appears to be a 9mm Glock that Harris supplied to Roberts to the FBI. Mr. Fuller, in days after the attack, one FBI agent assigned to the investigation told Truth Out he was appalled by the lack of immediate response to Roberts' offer of photos to identify Harris's attackers, but insisted that the department would act as of today. 2 months on, there is no sign that Sessions Department has moved to identify nor apprehend the Harris attackers. So this man was beaten by the white supremacists, almost an inch of his life, but he's being charged with the crime. Mr. Fuller, what do you say to that?
I say that in the system of white supremacy, it is to be expected. I'm telling the whole world that. You should expect this. This shouldn't surprise you. Ever, 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 ever. This is routine. You should expect that when you go down there. That you're going to go down there and get beaten and be charged for the disturbance and be punished for it. You should expect that if you're a person of color. You should expect that. You shouldn't expect anything else ever. Period. We're in a system of racism. We're not in any other system. You're already a prisoner of war. You have been declared guilty of being the incorrect color, of being incorrect based on color. Everything that you do is incorrect. You don't have any business even existing. You got to look at it that way because that's the way they see you. They have been highly trained to see you that way. Your very existence is an insult to the entire universe. That's the way if you are a person who is classified as non-white, black, you are an insult to the entire universe and everything in it. You're an insult to a roach.
Wow. TalkTameRadio.com.
If you look at yourself that way, the way that they see you, now you got it. And you're not going to understand anything until you see it that way.
TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are all available. Download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. More of your calls and more of Mr. Fuller's teaching. And let me give you this announcement. Due to technical difficulties, the Facebook Live transmission will be discontinued today. This will be corrected, and we will continue broadcasting on Facebook Live for the next show. We apologize for the inconvenience. Please follow us on TalkTameRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. You can also give us a call at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, and we will get on it. We are discussing the 8th area of people activity, which is sex in the system of racism, white supremacy. They're the same. And Mr. Fuller is addressing we are in class, so he's addressing it, teaching us, learning us, as my grandpa would say, the things that we should know. And via suggestion. And he has written a book called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, which he will speak to on the next segment. But right now we're going to go to the phone lines. And what line are we on? Line number 2. Okay. Line number 2, you are on with Mr. Fuller. Make it short and sweet, please.
Short and sweet. For clarification on the word collusion, that is a legal term in a collective bargaining agreement with the NFL Players Association and the owners. So it has a definition that is conspiring amongst the owners to discriminate against a player. So it has a legal definition in this context. He has actually filed a grievance alleging that the owners have colluded to bar him from employment.
Mm-hmm.
So for clarification.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, say you.
Oh, I have, well, it is what it is. The gentleman called in and said he's done some research. I haven't done the research. See, I haven't even looked up the word collusion. I mean,
apparently it's already been established.
Right. And so, and even if I looked it up, I would have to look it up in the context that they're using it, the people who are talking it. See, it's always about who is using the term and under what conditions, and what it means to everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I guess the person used the term because it's an official term in the language that they are using, and everybody's agreeing on it. So it's just a matter of whether or not someone has committed a crime, you might say, or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, the brother said it was Kaepernick filed a grievance, not just a charge, but a grievance, concerning the alleged collusion.
Well, that even comes into the definition of what, even if you file a quote-unquote grievance. When I was on a job situation, I always told people never use the word grievance. I mean, to describe anything, because I just didn't like the word. I say, you don't say you're grieving anything. You don't say that you are protesting anything.
Yes.
You just simply say, has something been done that should not have been done, and was it, whatever was done, was it promoting justice or not?
Yes, sir,
Let's
Mr.
keep it solid. Let's keep it simple.
Yes, sir, Mr. Fuller.
But I ain't grieving nothing.
Okay, but
I'm saying let's make a report. I like the word report.
Okay,
See,
but
I said you never make a grievance.
But the brother
always make a report.
Okay,
and you're reporting that you have reason to believe that something was done that should not have been done based on the criteria of one word.
Yes, sir.
Justice.
Okay. But the brother intimated
whether somebody's being mistreated or not.
Okay.
That's what justice is. Okay.
But the brother intimated that they have a collective bargain agreement, and in that collective bargaining agreement, you would have to assume that word for the language of the agreement, grievance was a term that they could use, that they could further go on. These are established procedures. So Kaepernick was within his quote unquote legal right to pursue this matter through the grievance process.
Yes. And I have no problem with that because I'm not even in it. It's what they have agreed on. See, because this is all a matter of agreements between persons, okay, based on language that they have invented to satisfy whatever it is that they are doing.
Yes.
So, just people standing on the outside of this really have no say-so about it except just give their opinions like I do and whatnot. But actually, it's the people who are really involved in it, the transaction. That's strictly between them and the transaction that they have made. It's a contract.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm just an observer, and I'm just giving my opinion from a distance. But what they mean in their language, only they can determine what they agreed to and what they didn't agree to.
All righty.
And that's why I say, in counter-racist science, get rid of the confusion. See what I mean? That's exactly what you don't want.
Okay.
Because the white supremacists always thrive on confusion.
Yes, sir.
And one of the best ways to disseminate and spread confusion is through the use of language.
Okay. What line are we on, sir? What, line 3? Okay. Line number 3, you're on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead, please.
You got me, brother?
Go ahead, bro.
Okay, I want to say much love and praise to you and Brother Fuller. I want to give people a shot of reality, what Mr. Fuller do every week. Mr. Hitler told the German people, have no pity, act brutally. That's what he told them. This is what we are seeing in America today. Mr. Hitler did not overthrow the German power structure at that time. The German power structure put Mr. Hitler in. Donna Hitler, Mussolini dump did not overthrow the white supremacy power structure in America. They put him in. They put him in to do exactly what he has done. He is acting crazy here. He's acting crazy in the world. They want him to do that. Why do they want him to do that? Because when you're going to exterminate a people, chaos must reign. You must make things go crazy. Killing, death, police assassination, military going crazy. This is the atmosphere they're creating. Now, there's a lot of bad black brothers out there who's ready to fight the white supremacy when they know they can't whoop the Boy Scouts. So black women, I'm talking specifically to you. You must think about saving your life, some child you might have, life. I cannot tell you where to go, but I can tell you this. If you want to save your life or have a chance for life, you must get out of here. These psychopaths have plans to exterminate millions of black people. Now, this ain't nothing new. We're not going to be the first people they exterminated. They've been doing this for over 2,000 years. Now, if they've been doing this for over 2,000 years, I said they're going to do it tomorrow. Somebody else said, yeah, they've been doing it 2,000 years, but they ain't going to do it tomorrow. Then that's your choice. Refugees are nothing new. Refugees go all the way back to Caesar, and they're going to be in the future. Why? People run from danger. If they're not able to stand up and fight the psychopath, they run. But wherever those people run from, there are always going to be a few people back there to fight. It's going to be the same thing in America. Mm-hmm. Think about saving your life, people. We are not going to intellectualize Zimmerman, Darren Wilson, Donna Hitler. You are not going to intellectualize these people. They are mentally ill. So you better think about saving your life.
All right, my brother.
Hey, that's up to you. That's what I see.
Okay.
I just put it out there for people to think about.
All right. All right. Thank you. That's my man from Chicago. We lovingly and respectfully call him the Extermination Man. I didn't name him that. Somebody on the internet made him, but he's worldwide known now as the Extermination Man, given his 2 cents under the GQ. All right, thank you. All right, let's do this. Let's see here. Okay, let's go here first. Mr. Fuller, this is the time that we donate or that we allow for you to speak to your book. So take it away.
Yes, you can get the textbook for victims of white supremacy called the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code under the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. That's a whole bunch of words right there that mean absolutely nothing until you actually get the book. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com, and then everything is described in the book. The book basically is directed to individual victims of racism. Only if you perceive yourself as being directly or indirectly a victim of racism is the book of any use to you. So you go to it and you find in the book, because what are you supposed to be looking for in the book? You're supposed to be looking for solutions to whatever problem you have on the job or wherever. That's why the book is segmented into 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And you're supposed to find something in this book that will apply to you in all of these areas of activity are about solving what? Whatever problem you're having. That's what the book is written for. In any of these areas of activity, in the labor problem, what's the best approach that you can have? How should you think about it? What you should say about it? Thought, speech, action. What should you say? What should you think? I mean, some thoughts, just suggestions now. The book is not dictatorial. You pick whatever you think will work, and then what to do about it. See, everything is about finally doing something, because if you're not doing something, nothing gets done. That's what DONE means. You got it done, okay, whatever it was, and it worked. And if it doesn't work, that means that it's something in error, because problem solving is about getting things to work for you. And that's what the entire book is about, getting things to work for you, solving your problem, whatever it is, a suggestion. That's all it is. It's not dictatorship. It's a suggestion. It doesn't say you must do this. Well, who am I to tell somebody what they must do? These are just some suggestions based on observations of what the problems are, and maybe the best way to go about solving the problem of each individual. Because the theory is, you solve the problems of each individual, you'll solve the problems of all individuals, because people are individuals, all right? And it's just the mathematics says, if you solve the problem of every individual on the planet, you have solved the problems in a quantitative sense of all individuals. See, so I tried to write a book that's addressed to each individual, so you can solve each individual's problem. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com.
Okay, TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameRadio.com to your app or to your cell. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your listenership. Franz Darius, your question via the Gmail will be coming up, hopefully answered or addressed on this program or this particular show. But before we do that, let's go to the phone lines. And number 3, you are now on to Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I was curious. I have 2 questions.
Make them short, please. Go ahead.
Is Mr. Fuller a vegan?
Okay.
And number 2, is the slaughter of animals in America for human consumption the correct thing to do?
Okay.
Or incorrect thing to do?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
I don't know. I really don't know, because everything is so messed up. And this question has come up, like all questions I've heard down through the decades and whatnot. Everything is about questions and answers, and this is a question. And the answer to that question is, I don't know. A lot of people say everybody should be vegetarians. Well, what vegetables? And how are those vegetables put together? Under what conditions? And maybe it's the correct vegetable, maybe like cauliflower or broccoli and whatnot. Maybe we should all be eating broccoli, but then it comes down to who is growing the broccoli and where and when and under what conditions. And is somebody putting poison in the broccoli? Because the white supremacists will always watch what black people eat, and they never want black people to eat anything that's going to build them up. They want them to consume a lot of stuff that'll tear them down, a lot of fake food, all right? So they know how to make fake food, and they know how, if black people say, well, we're going to stop eating meat and we're going to start eating spinach, okay? Well, the white supremacists say, well, hey, who controls the production of spinach? I do. So therefore, I'll give you some plastic and call it spinach, okay? And you'll think that you're getting nutrition now and whatnot. You finally made it. You found out the nutritious food. You're now, everybody's Popeye the Sailor Man. You eat a can of spinach, and you're good to go. I mean, you know, your brain works better, your body functions better. You can whip Bruno if you have to. You can do a whole lot of things, lift weights and all that, you know. But it won't be so, because the white supremacists would just simply look at it and say, oh, black people say that they're going to eat better food now. That's what they claim they're going to do. All right, I'll see about that. I'll see that food is loaded with arsenic.
With that being said, to answer his first question, he asked, were you a vegan?
Was I a vegan?
A vegan, a vegetarian.
Oh, yeah, a vegetarian?
Yeah.
No, but I tried to minimize my consumption of meats.
Okay.
Now, I eat fish. I eat sardines mostly. Why? Because somebody said, well, maybe, you know, but I got my doubts about sardines, but I go ahead and eat them because I got my doubts about all the food that I eat.
Yes, yes.
One thing that I know that I can't do, because that's another thing I'm finding out. Your body is an individual thing. I guess that's why I wrote my book, for the individual person. Each individual is different, okay? And some individuals have a high tolerance of some things that are very common for some foods, and another individual, maybe in the same family, cannot tolerate that at all. So how do you know? You listen to your body. That's the best way I know how. Because my body will not, at this particular stage, at one time, I could eat a lot of bread, pancakes, all of that. I can't eat any of that now. All right? Why? Because my body has changed.
Yes, sir.
All right? And for some reason, I don't know the reason, but I know that I get headaches when I eat any type of bread.
Yes, sir.
And so you just have to kind of feel your way. I mean, just like you do, that's the compensatory way, making up for what's missing.
Yes, sir.
Every day you have to do some thinking about how to adjust to the world as it changes, because everything is always changing around you. All kinds of things keep coming down the pipe. And you have to, you just have to keep your mind working.
That's right.
Keep thinking, keep observing everything.
And that first statement that you made before we go on here, answering this question about finding out who makes the food and the kind of stuff that they did, you are absolutely correct, Mr. Fuller, and you are on point with that, because when I did the research, and I'm not going to mention the name of this company on the air, but they do control the seeds that this particular company does control the seeds and seed production. And I was told some very disturbing news about that, and I have seen footage and also some different kind of damages that they have done in poisoning the food. So some food. So what you are saying is absolutely true. Like I said, I'm not going to mention the name of it, and I'm going to try not to hint so much to it, but it is one of the names in the alphabet. Anyway, let's do this. Franz Darius. This comes from, let's see here, the 26th of September. He says, Harriet Tubman is credited with the statement, quote, I freed 1,000 slaves and would have freed 1,000 more had they known that they were slaves, end of quote. Ignorance is bliss. To adopt the concept of not celebrating birthdays and the like, observing traditions, because as a slave, your every waking moment is to be spent trying to change the system to one of justice. This is your basic sermon. Life is too short to walk on these kind of, quote, eggshells, end of quote. Ever vigilant stresses a person unnecessarily. I think blacks are the most neurotic people on this planet, persecuted from the cradle to the grave. The emotional toll of 9/11 was lessened with social programs and counseling to help deal with the after effects. Blacks are persecuted from minute to another with no counseling. Why spend my fleeting life fighting something with or without help that will not change, because supremacy, racism, is the most powerful religion, the most perfect plantation, etc. Why fight for justice if it brings misery to an already miserable life? Mr. Fuller?
Well, the finally, and there was a lot there, but the question was, and that's what I try to do. I try to get right to the question: why fight for justice when you're having a miserable life? Well, I've on this program, I've mentioned the thing about what are we here for, over and over again, every week. What are we here on the planet for? To solve problems. Why? Because whatever created us gave us problems to solve. All right? Now, the problems may, in thousands of years ago, and some people, particularly in the Christian religion, said at one time people didn't have any problems because they were doing everything that they were supposed to do. They said it was in the character of two people, because it was just two people here, I understand, on the entire planet. And they were male and female, one named Adam and one named Eve. And Eve was produced after Adam was produced, because Adam, presumably, was lonesome. So he needed somebody, to take care of his loneliness, okay? He was here by himself, and then whatever created Adam decided, that, hey, Adam made a request, hey, I need somebody to talk to, okay, on a daily basis, evidently. So then that became in the form of Eve, okay? All right, so then something happened, and they had some rules, like, you have rules of the universe and all like that. And so I've been told by all the preachers, and most of them agree in the Christian religion. In other religions, a lot of people say none of that really happened. That's something somebody made up. But then that's another argument that, I can't settle that argument. That's all arguments between theologians, okay? But they said that they did something that they shouldn't have done, and everything got messed up since then. So therefore, we are born in a mess. Now, I do know that, all right? We come into the world. Babies come into the world crying. There's evidence of that. The babies can sense, even before the minute they take that breath, they start screaming out, wow, what is going on here? What a mess this is. That's the way that I interpret it. They don't come here laughing. They come here crying. They come here seeing. They can sense that this is an awful stuff. This stuff is going on. This wow. These people don't even know what they're into. And now I've been dumped off in it, and I've become a part of it. So I'm saying once you are dumped off in a messy situation, all right, you can't be somewhere else because you are here, okay? Mm-hmm. And since something put you here, I came to the conclusion that me, Neely Fuller, I'm put here to solve problems.
Okay.
Why? Because problems are here.
Okay.
So what's the biggest problem on the planet right now? Racism.
Okay.
So that's my assignment.
That's your assignment.
And
okay.
I work on it for better or for worse.
Okay.
But that's what I'm here for.
All righty. Sharnice Rose, quickly, from, September the 27th. Can Mr. Fuller give an explanation how non-white people help strengthen white supremacy through sex?
Oh, by all the ways that I put into the book. There's so many ways. Having sexual intercourse with white people without white supremacy being eliminated. That's something you do after we have a system of justice. Now we can get some sanity going. Up until then, we're just adding to the confusion if we have sexual intercourse with white people, and then the way that we go about having sex with each other. That's got to be completely redone, all right, because that's all messed up. That's why all the black females, are completely, they're just throwing up both hands and saying, I might as well be a man myself because I can't find a man, all right? And, everybody seems to be crazy and whatnot and running me crazy, and so I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I want to have a child and all like that, but where is that going to go? That ain't solving no problem.
I got you.
So it's just all messed up. So we are here to solve these problems. That's why I try to do it the book.
Okay. Tiffany Stephanie, next week your question will be first. But for the rest, thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Even in spite of the technical difficulties, it still was a good show. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The world's greatest radio. We give you a Talktainment Radio worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, there are three ways that you may do that. First of all, you can go to Facebook.com/Talktainment. And there you can hear and see the show. You can also hit a like button, and I believe the comment button may be functional today. You can leave a comment if you'd like. You can also access the program by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Bear in mind that if you do use the latter, your question will go into a question rotation, and as it comes up, I will read it. So that means that if you write me a question today, and please give me a chance to get it out before you start calling. If you do it today, more than likely, it is not going to be read on air today, but it will be read because I will have Mr. Fuller address it. As you know, we are in our series on sex, this is our sixth series, and we are studying from the book, Mr. Fuller's book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And today, hopefully, we will get started. Starting on page 294, 295, 296, there's some questions there that we will have or like to have Mr. Fuller address, but it all is contingent upon how many calls that come in and what you have to say, and then how long Mr. Fuller takes to address your question, but it will be addressed. All right, let's see. So remember, you can still go to facebook.com/Talktainment where you can see and hear the program. And let's get started. First of all, Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Very, very good. Okay, now, let's see here. Let's do this. Let's start off with a question from the Gmails. It says here, this is from September the 25th. That's to show you how far behind we are. It says, greetings, Mr. Fuller. This comes from JR, by the way. Greetings, Mr. Fuller. If a victim of the system of racism and white supremacy has been conditioned to support the system of racism, white supremacy, either consciously or unconsciously, but the victim begins to recognize or become aware of the root most of their problem is due to racism, how does the victim overcome the conditioning when the system of racism, white supremacy, is in a constant phase of maintenance and refinement?
You just simply recognize that. That's all. All problems are solved by recognition of the problem. If you are looking at a flat tire and you see that the tire is flat, but you have no idea, no one has told you anything about what you will need, that you will need something to get the car up off the ground. And then someone will tell you now, behind that hubcap, that thing called a hubcap, and you'll have to point that out. I mean, the wheel cover, that it is called, there are some screws that are called lugs and whatnot, and then you have a wrench, a tool for that. They'll have to point that out. In other words, you have to go into the details of all the mechanics. And that's why I say that if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works in all 9 areas of activity, everything else that you understand will confuse you. Because It's no point in talking about the rest of the car or any part of the car, the engine or the carburetor, anything like that, if you don't get this wheel straight. You got to know every detail of everything that they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of missing things, and that's going to add to the confusion. Anything that's missing in your understanding is going to add to the confusion. Somewhere down the line, you can understand a lot of things, but somewhere you'll be tripped up. Now, that means you got a lot of observing to do, a lot of study in all of the 9 areas of activity, not just in some.
Yes.
Economics, education, entertainment. How do the white supremacists operate in the field of education when it comes to people of color? What do they teach, and why do they teach it? Just in the field of education, you might say. I sometimes use this explanation. I say that even in a school where you have a white student sitting next to a black student, the white student, on account of what is being taught how to be a white supremacist, whether he or she is aware of that or not. And the black student is being taught how to be a supporter of white supremacists. I mean, but this isn't explained by the instructor. That what I'm going to teach you in this class, if you're white and sitting in my class, all of the white students, I'm going to teach you how to be a white supremacist. But it's not. I'm not going to even mention anything about white supremacy. But the things that I'm going to teach you and the way that I'm going to go about teaching it, that's what I'm teaching you. And you're going to become stronger and stronger and stronger. And that black student is going to sit there confused, even though the student may be a straight A student. I mean, it really absorbs everything that I'm saying. If he or she is not confused, but at the end of the day, that student will be well schooled, that black student, in how he or she is going to serve as a victim, serve as a supporter of the very system that has put him in or her in the position of being a victim.
All right.
And he or she is going to have learned in this class and made a straight A in it, and how he or she is going to go about supporting the system that is already in place.
Yes, sir.
Because we don't have a system of justice in place. We have a system of white supremacy.
Yes,
it's the only government on earth.
The only government, yes, sir. Okay, from the Facebook.com/Talktainment line. Now, I won't be able to read your comments yet, but Fred Yancey, thank you. Kim Joshua Jones, Kenny Ray, Nikki Young Love, Judah Da, and excuse me for the mispronunciation, and Demetrius Frank from Detroit checking in, so we appreciate. Oh, Judah is the name. Good morning. All right, he says good morning, or good morning and still learning. Okay, class is beginning, and now they have it up on the screen so I can see some of it, but I may not read or can read all of it. But thank you anyway, and good morning. Okay, Mr. Fuller, one more question here, and now I'm going to read the question just as it is. So if you hear some stumbling, I'm reading it just as it is. Mr. Fuller, it says, I made this observation from social media. What I saw is most of the non-white females look at a lot of masculine, and it has bodybuilder type, than the average non-white female. It seems that most of them their significant other to be white men. Mr. Fuller, is there a reason why white men are attracted to that type of non-white female? And also, Mr. Fuller, you always say when whites and non-whites encounter is sexual relations, that the non-white person is being taken advantage of. The question I have is, does the non-white person know that they're being taken advantage of? Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
And well, in answer to the last question, the non-white person usually does not know naturally. I mean, how would you know? I mean, to the person, unless somebody points out the entire system of racism. See, it's a subtle thing, and but it's very effective.
Yes, sir.
And if you put it within the context, I always like to use the prison context.
Yes, sir.
That's where we are. We're born in a prison. It's like the warden coming into the cell. Now, the warden may have picked out a particular prisoner, because the warden may be a female even, but that warden has picked out a particular prisoner that I really have a sexual desire for that prisoner, and I am not going to hold it back. I'm going to turn loose to that desire. And so the warden sends for that prisoner to be sent for to the warden's office, all right? And the warden says, I want to talk to this particular prisoner about, such and such a matter and all like that. And so everybody else in the prison, the people that work there, they say, sure. The warden said, send for you. Go up to the warden's office. And the doors close and all like that. So they engage in sexual intercourse, all right? That's the warden of the entire prison. In this case, a white supremacist, if you're talking about a non-white person, and the non-white person is a prisoner. They're having sexual intercourse in the warden's office. And the prisoner gets to the place, because this person is one-on-one, one person relating to another, and they really get to really like each other, you might say. And they get all fired up about each other. But you have to remember they're in a system, a prison system.
Yes, sir.
The prison system says that the prisoner is still a prisoner. When that lady walks out of that warden's office, all right, or in this case it may be a male, a black male, that's going in there, and the warden is a white woman, and they're having sexual intercourse. The warden is a white woman. But that black male, when he walks out of there, he's still a prisoner. That's the way you have to look at it, because the system of white supremacy is a world prison, and every person classified as non-white is a prisoner of war in that prison. And it doesn't make any difference where you are on the planet. You are a prisoner of the system of white supremacy. And you cannot forget that, not for 5 minutes, because that's your status.
Yes, sir.
Now, the statements that I've just made and the illustration I just gave is either true or false. There's no in between. So you have to make up your mind whether what I just said is true or false. That's the first order of business, because you don't want to go along with something that's false. I mean, when you listen to what I just said, you say, now, is that true or false, what Fuller is saying? Okay, it's up to you to decide. I decided that it's true. I didn't want it to be true, but just looking at the facts, I decided, yes, that's the truth, and that I am a victim if I go into that warden's office and I'm a prisoner and we engage in any kind of sexual anything or anything that has to do with anything other than doing away with the prison system that never should have been instituted in the first place, that prison system that is named the system of white supremacy. See, that's a prison that should never have existed, because all it was just set up to penalize me as a prisoner because of my color.
Yes, sir.
That's what the prison was for. And what did I do? What kind of crime did I commit? Well, you committed the crime of having the incorrect color, boy, all right, and being on this planet. You should have been sent to another planet, because you really don't fit into this one. So you should be punished for being here with your color in your skin. That's your crime.
That's your crime, okay.
All right, and you have to keep that in mind, because that's the whole philosophy of white supremacy, that a black person is a criminal. Why? Not because of something he stole or somebody he killed or something like that, or he or she, but because he or she has color in her skin, and that is illegitimate on this planet. You don't have no business having color in your skin. You're supposed to be mistreated if you have color in your skin. You're made to be mistreated.
All right.
Because you don't have any business being here in the first place.
Class is in session. So thank you for tuning into the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Michael just says thank you. And M.S. Brown, something about screen trouble. I don't know. I'm looking at the screen and it's up. I can't see anything. And but Julian Grant just says the usual suspects are messing with the broadcast again, and that does seem to be the problem. However, we're still going to go on. Talktainment Radio is, talktainmentradio.com is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, and religion, and, of course, politics. Now, here's a couple or a few that I'd like to share with you. Let's do this one. This is Libby with Libby Rand. That's one show. The Voice of Deliverance, Dr. Carr Robinson, is another show. And how about this one? You know, one of my favorites, New Money with Drew and Janae. Now, all these shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on the programs, and there is a list of each program that you'd want to hear, and there's something for everybody's taste. Again, all that is exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. Hi, my name is Mr. Bobby, and I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And you can get in contact with the show by doing this, Facebook.com/Talktainment. You can do that where you can hit a like button. You can make a comment. Doesn't matter what it is, like or dislike, it doesn't matter. But you can make a comment, and now they fixed it so I can read it. So that's going to be good. CJ Link just said the audio is fine, but the videos is distorted. They're working on that. Thank you, CJ. That's beautiful where I can see that now. So we're working on that. You can also call by calling 1-877-932-9766. So we'll try to get to that call that's on the line now, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, and I will try to read that and have Mr. Fuller address it as he just did. Okay, let's move on. Okay, that call is gone. Okay, well, let's go on to this. Okay, Mr. Fuller, get your book out. Everybody else class, because we are in class, Mr. Fuller is teaching. Let's do this. We're going to start on page 294. Page 294 of the Revised Expanded Edition. And there's some questions here, Mr. Fuller. It says here, when choosing each other as, and then you have in, I want to say parentheses, but sexual mates, promise each other that you will never do the following in regards to your interaction with each other and with others. Now, you have on this page here 13 things. So pick out select a couple that you'd want to make mention of.
You mean select?
Yeah, just a few of the responses. Yeah, we're not going to do all 13, but just select a few, whichever one. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what order. Just select a few and then make short comment on that.
That's on page 294.
Yes, sir, 294.
Okay, well, that's under the 8th area of activity of sex.
That's correct.
The 9 areas of activity. I'll just pick one at random here.
Yes, sir.
Things you should never do. Number 9, keep secret from each other any act of sexual intercourse and or sexual play that you engage with someone other than each other. Now, that's a standard one. I mean, but you agree that you will tell each other. You may say, well, why would I do that? I mean, if I'm doing something that my partner doesn't know about, but I am going to have sex with another person and whatnot. Well, when you first start out, see, all of this is before you have that first act of sexual intercourse.
Yes, sir.
These are agreements that you make with each other.
Yes, sir.
In order to do what? In order that you'll always have honesty and clarity. And you'll just simply say, now, if we have sexual intercourse with somebody else, we're going to tell each other about it. Say, well, why would we do that? We're going to have, because now that's going to really cause a problem between me and you. No, it's not going to be a problem because we're going to tell each other about it, and we will agree that we're going to tell each other about it because it just might happen. Most likely it will happen, all right, in many circumstances, depending on the circumstances. How long are we going to be together? I mean, in this arrangement that we have, because black people in the system of white supremacy don't really have relationships. We have arrangements. The white supremacists don't allow us to have relationships, real solid relationships, because we don't have any control over anything.
Yes, sir.
But they do allow us to interact with each other. In fact, they demand it, but on their terms. But they control everything. But so we just be honest with each other about everything. So we don't have all these conflicts that we always have. Because we're just full of conflicts. We don't have working arrangements even, for the most part, because we're confused about our status with each other because we don't understand white supremacy, that the white supremacists dictate to us what our relationships are going to be.
Yes, sir.
So that's just one of the things that we disagree to do.
Okay.
I mean, and you say, well, if you do it, then, that means that I'm not going to put up with that, so we're not going to get along and all like that. Say, well, we got to settle all that in the beginning, because what that means is when we tell each other, are we going to still be with each other? Or what kind of arrangement we're going to make from here on in? Because we're going to agree before we even start out that we will tell each other if we do. So we got to figure out whether or not we will like each other after that.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Okay.
And get that straight before we even get started.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, wait a minute. Now, before we go to the next one, hey, can we take this phone call? Line 2? Okay. Line 2. Go ahead. You are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. Peace and blessings as usual. Mr. Barry, instructive action meeting every Saturday, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., Lake Clifton, 2000 St. Louis Drive across from Lake Clifton. Mr. Berg, instructive action meeting, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., Baltimore, 2000 St. Louis Drive across from Lake Clifton High School. Oh, man, I just wanted to say Just keep the fight up, keep the shirts going, keep the conversation going. If you want to solve a problem, start in your communities. The people in our communities we buy from and tell us things, care about the communities. I don't know how we can solve this problem, but if you want to start with a problem, start in your communities, start in your household. White supremacy is in our very households, and we have to start those places, I think, before we start anywhere else. Thank you.
All righty. That will be under VGQ there.
What's
Thank
that,
you.
an announcement or something?
I'm not sure, Mr. Fuller.
Right.
Okay. Anyway,
it is what it is.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now let's continue here for the next few moments. The second thing you want to point out on page 94, what would be the second thing at random?
Well, let's see. There's so many things.
Yes,
here.
sir. Yeah.
But number 10.
Okay.
Never reveal the identity of any non-white persons with whom you have engaged in sexual intercourse and or sexual play unless absolutely necessary in order to avoid unjust harm being done to yourself or others. Now, that's just generally speaking. That's not just a sexual partner. I mean, but you don't, that's generally speaking. Never reveal the identity of any non-white persons with whom you have engaged in sexual intercourse and or sexual play unless absolutely necessary in order to avoid unjust harm being done to yourself or others. In other words, don't gossip.
Yes, sir.
It comes under that gossip thing. I mean, somebody starts sitting around talking about who you're going to bed with and all like that. You say, I'm not going to do that unless I'm authorized to tell you by the person that, you know, that you may be asking about, or whomever the person, even if the person is anonymous to you. You're just trying to find out who my girlfriend is, or in the case of a female, who my boyfriend is and whatnot. I'm not telling you nothing about that at all. You know, I mean, what's that got to do with you?
Exactly.
I mean, in other words, hey, that cuts out all that dinner table gossip, that lunchroom gossip and all like that. I mean, you're not involved in this, all right? So let's go on and talk about something serious, like how to solve problems.
Yes, sir.
Of the world. See, I mean, you know, because that comes under that gossip thing. And part of the code, one of the 10 stops is stop gossiping.
Stop gossiping.
And that is saying something. What is gossip? Saying something about anybody to someone else that you wouldn't say if the person was sitting there. All right? So you don't pass on any information like that. You don't pass on any information about a person unless the person that you're talking about knows that that's what you're doing. That who you told what to.
Yes.
That's very important. Why? It minimizes conflict. That's why.
All righty.
And it's completely unnecessary. It doesn't add anything to anything as far as making the world a better place.
Okay. Absolutely. From the Facebook.com/Talktainment line here. Whoops. Let's see here. How about Dwayne Anderson from the Central and West Coast of Florida? Valencia Joseph, you just got off the screen, but she said good morning. Lulu Talley, good morning, and said this is you are her favorite person. Delvin Anderson said that they love the show. And Daryl Weston had a question. I don't know if we can answer it, but let's do this. Colin Kaepernick just got filed a suit against the NFL owners for colluding to keep him out of the league. But the problem is, how does he prove it, since none of these owners ever sat in a meeting and said, let's make sure Kaepernick doesn't get hired again? And say they can't prove it because all these white owners, except for one, are on code. Do you agree or disagree, Mr. Fuller?
About the
a treatment of Colin Kaepernick. He's trying to prove that there was collusion going on.
Collusion going on about the where the anthem is concerned?
No, to keep him out of the league. Yeah, the anthem is part of that also. But to keep him out of the league, in other words, hire him when there is a need for him, but they have concluded, or he feels that they have concluded to keep him out of the league.
Well, see, that word collusion is the key term here.
Yes.
What does that mean, and to whom? See what I mean? It's a technical word. Words are very important.
Right.
So I don't know what to say about that, because I don't know what each person who is looking at that word means by the term and what the word is supposed to mean legally. All right? See, so that gets into some intricacies that I'm not familiar with.
Well, Colin Kaepernick indicated that they are, or he feels that they are colluding against him. So that's all.
When you use that word, that's a charge. When you charge anybody with doing anything,
this is what he said.
You have to understand what the charge is.
Okay. Well, this is
whether the words that are used are being accepted, and that's a key right there. I mean, because everybody might have a different definition of what collusion is, and seeing I don't have a compensatory definition for it, so I wouldn't know how to handle that myself in that particular situation. In the first place, I wouldn't use the term unless I defined what the term meant, okay? I would decide what that term means and have a definition for it. And when I tell them, I'm charging you with colluding, okay, and I'm going to tell you what I mean when I say colluding. Just like I would explain to someone that I'm going to take a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I will tell them what my pledge is and what each word in the pledge means, all right? So it won't be any what? Confusion, because that's what you don't want. And so you don't want any confusion about the word collusion. No confusion about collusion. They all have to be on the same page, and it seems to be like they have a controversy right now about what the word means and to whom.
Well, according to what I'm looking at, it seems like the only one that seems to have a problem with that seems to be you, Mr. Fuller. Everybody else that is writing in seems to understand that term.
Well, the people that he's accusing of committing the collusion, which would presumably be a crime, have they agreed that they have committed a crime?
Well, they are in the process of responding to that, and apparently they seem to know what that word means. But anyway, let's do this. And thank you for your response, Ray G. Robinson mentioned blacklisting. Let's do this. TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go, and check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. Download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell. That's radio the way it should be heard. Now, stay right there. We have more of your phone calls, more comments on the Facebook.com/Talktainment line. I'm Mr. Bobby, and I'm the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. He is live from Washington, D.C., but I have to make this announcement right now. I was just handed this. Due to technical difficulties, the Facebook Live transmission will be discontinued for today only. This will be corrected, and we will continue broadcasting on Facebook Live for the next show. So we apologize for the inconvenience. Please follow us on TalkTameRadio.com. That's the usual way to do that, and you can ask your questions there. The usual suspects seem to be at play, so we're feverishly trying to correct that problem. And thank you for Inez Brown pointing that out, screen problems. And, yes, we are addressing that. So these are maybe the last names that I'll get to call today. But Dwayne Anderson, again, thank you. Valencia Joseph, thank you. Lulu Talley, thank you. Daryl Wesson, thank you. Delvon Anderson, thank you. And Ray G. Robinson, thank you. Mentioned that Colin Kaepernick is being blacklisted. The video now has ended, so now you can go just to TalkTameRadio.com, the usual way that you would listen to the show, and you can also ask your questions there, and also by the Gmail. Can I take this call here? Okay, line number 1. You're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. When you was talking about that collusion by the NFL, Dr. Neely Fuller said that that you yourself, a person of color, cannot go and make an accusation of racism or anything of that nature. You know what I'm saying? That you have to take a white person with you. And being that Galapagos or something like that, Lawyer Galapagos is his lawyer, is that the white person that can a conduit, you know what I'm saying, for his allegation of collusion, you know what I'm saying, thereby being racism or whatever to keep him out of the league. Oh. Remember Dr. Neely Fuller was saying that you can't go yourself and call someone racist. You can't take another person of color with you to call them racist. A white person has to go with you to attack or tell someone that they're racist.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, you want to respond to that?
Absolutely. In a system of white supremacy, and this is very important. Don't ever accuse a white person of being a racist.
Wait a minute. I hear background noise. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
A lot of background noise.
Go ahead, Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Don't ever, under the system of white supremacy, and that's the only system we're under, accuse a white person of being a racist or call a white person a racist. Because once you make that accusation, you're going to have to prove it. All right? That's a serious accusation. I mean, you make a flat statement like that, an accusation like that, you better have a white person there to back you up. Why? Because of certain fundamentals of the system of white supremacy. That's what white supremacy means, that you can't prove that a white person is a racist in the system of white supremacy if you are black, if you are non-white. Why? Because if they allow another black person or a whole army of black persons to step forward and say, yes, I agree with this black person when they say that Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so is a racist. I agree. All of those black people put together, their word means absolutely nothing until what? Until at least one white person somewhere on the planet steps forward and say, all of those millions of black people just made the accusation that Mr. So-and-so is a racist, and I agree with those millions. Now it's valid. That accusation is now valid. Now they'll take it in. That will go on the table as something worthy of consideration. Now, why is this? Because they can't allow, the white supremacists can't allow a black person, say on a job, for instance, to accuse a white person of being a racist, and then they take his or her word for it, the black person's word for it, and say, oh, okay, on account of you said so, we got to fire that person. I mean, because we don't allow racism here, okay? Well, then that black person can then say, well, now, hey, I made a survey, and I've been observing it and whatnot. I've written down a whole bunch of notes, so I'm making the accusation that really all of these white people that work in this factory are racist. Now what? All right? Now who are they? You know, you say, well, where's your proof? Well, my proof is, you know, that they do this, they do that, and all like that. I mean, their children go to a white school, blah, 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 and that's my case. And that, you know, a white person, just by logic, would look at that and say, well, any black person can go around and say that. And we can't allow that.
Yes,
so
sir.
Therefore, we can allow not even one black person. See, because that will have a chain reaction
Yes, sir.
everywhere,
Yes,
all
sir.
over the world, instantly.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, Every black person who stands up and says that a white person is a racist, that's very easy to prove in a racist system if you allow the black person to prove it. So it's only if you, therefore, only a white person. Just think about it now. Think about it, folks. Only a white person can really prove it. Otherwise, every white person would be locked up right now on a charge of being a white supremacist. Based on what? On a black person saying so.
Okay. All right. Let's do this. Let's pause for a second here. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. All you have to do is download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. Now, that's radio the way it should be heard. Now, my name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. This is our radio classroom, and Mr. Fuller is instructing or teaching us about racism, white supremacy. But at this point of each week of the program, we like to pause and have Mr. Fuller address and speak to his book. Mr. Fuller, go ahead.
Yes, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. And if you, what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook and a additional volume to the basic textbook. It's really supposed to be just one book, but there's an additional volume because I couldn't get it all in between two covers.
Yes, sir.
It would be too thick. So if you want the additional book under the title of a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide, it's just words in it. It's not like a dictionary. It's similar to a dictionary, but it has a lot of words in it, not very many, but I would like to have thousands of words, but I would have to have a huge book in order to do that. So in that word guide, you have selected words to give you some idea of how to use words when you're talking about racism, how you're writing about it. If you're on a job, and you're having to say something, they say, well, put it in writing and whatnot. To give some idea of what your perspective is going to be, because you got to get control of your own words and the definitions of those words. So sometimes you even make up your own definitions, but you explain that you are making up these definitions, which you can do, because all words are inventions anyway by individuals. That's how they get into, particularly the English language. There's no person who is designated to be an inventor of words. I don't think a lot of people understand that. There are no group of people that get together and say, we're going to invent words, and these are the words that everybody's going to have to use with the definitions that we give it. No, words come into being simply by people using words. You can make up words yourself, words that nobody ever heard of, and just give them definitions and start using them. And if enough people start using them, you have produced another language. That's how languages come into being anyway. Lexicographers, they are people who write dictionaries. They understand that. They just don't sit down and write dictionaries. They go out and find out what words people are using. And then they come back and put those words in dictionaries. They don't invent words. People that make dictionaries don't invent the words that are in the dictionary. They find out what people are saying and how they are saying it and the different meanings they give, because sometimes the same word will have a different meaning at a different time. A word that will have one meaning in 1900, by 2017, that word has a different meaning altogether, even though it's the same word. Why? Because people decided that they would use it in a different way. So, but words are very important. That's why. But you can get the book by going to producejustice.com, both the basic book and or the word guide. That's producejustice.com. addressed to the individual victims of racism. If you don't perceive yourself as being a victim of white supremacy, then the book does not apply to you.
All right. Now, due to technical difficulties, the Facebook Live transmission will be discontinued for today. This will be corrected, and we will continue broadcasting on Facebook Live for the next show. We apologize for the inconvenience. Please follow us on talktainmentradio.com. The usual suspects are in play, so keep that in mind. You can also call 1-877-932-9766 or Gmail me at the numero 7, MrBobby@gmail.com. Let's go to the phone lines. What line? Line number 3. Line number 3, you are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. How you doing today?
Good, sir. Go ahead.
My question is real brief. Mr. Fuller, what advice would you offer to a male or females who work with youth and adults who are in situations of greater capacity, in other words, incarceration?
Oh, what advice would you give to people who are in jail?
No, advice for people who work in jails, like counselors, chaplains, administrators, those who work in jails. What advice would you give to those of us who are black working with youth and adults who are incarcerated?
As counselors?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you would give them counseling. And you give them counseling about the world that they're in. And I would recommend my book as part of the counseling. Even though in some prisons, I understand, my book has been banned.
What?
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. Every now and then my book is banned in some prisons.
It's considered contraband.
Well, they say that it might contribute to some type of disorder, maybe, or something like that.
Some type of what?
I don't see why that's true. You know,
some type of racial unrest. It could potentially lead to that.
Or you know, the language is kind of vague. It's kind of broad. I'll put it that way. The language of the rejection of my book in some prisons is kind of, you know, stereotypical language that would cover a number of things and whatnot.
Your book is banned? Wow.
In some prisons. In some prisons, it's not. All right. Now that brings up a question of the 14th Amendment right there in the Northwestern Hemisphere. Why would it be banned in some prisons and not banned in others? What's the difference in one prison and another? Well, maybe there are differences in one prison and another. I don't know. But I can't see. My book is about opposing white supremacy and producing something better in its place called a system of justice.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your call.
That's all my book is about.
Mm-hmm.
My book is not about anything other than that, anti-white supremacy. All right? Now, there might be people who have problems with being anti-white supremacists, and there might be people who do not believe in the production of justice. But I don't see how any person will step forward who's supposed to be trying to teach people about producing justice and say that they're against literature that's about producing justice. I don't understand that kind of logic.
Yes, sir.
All right? In answer to that question about counselors, you know, counselors are in the business of trying to teach people about what justice is about. That one word. That's what prisons are all about. What is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Okay.
That's what counseling all over the world, every minute of every day, should be about.
Yes, sir.
Start with that premise.
Yes, sir.
That everything that I say for the next 1,000 years until it is achieved, if it takes that long, is about what? It's about guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's supposed to be a guarantee.
Yes, sir.
And the other part is guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Okay.
Underline the word constructive.
Okay, constructive. Let me ask you this, Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Based on what you just said, now, every problem that man could have, if justice as defined by you were in place, or a system of justice, would we have any problem?
No, because, you know, if everybody is guaranteed that they're not going to be mistreated, and everybody is guaranteed that the person that needs help the most is going to get the most constructive help, because everybody else is going to say, hey, that lady, Miss Alice Green, I mean, you know, in this institution or on this job or wherever we happen to be.
Yes, sir.
I mean, she needs help the most. That
yes,
lady
sir.
really is seriously in need of help.
Yes, sir.
Everybody on this job, we got 500 people working in this factory. Now, everybody in this factory needs help because people always need help.
Yes, sir.
All right? But Miss Alice Green, who works down there in that assembly section or whatnot, I mean, I'm giving that as an illustration.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When we checked, we found out that lady really needs help the most because everybody in this factory, since we got 500 people here, all 499 people in this factory is supposed to try to brainstorm some way that we can guarantee that Miss Alice Green gets the help that she needs, because we don't leave anybody out. There's no such thing as surplus people when it comes to consideration for justice. It's no such thing as you're going to leave somebody out. You don't leave anybody out. Everybody who needs help is going to get it. Otherwise, you can't say you have justice. And nobody is going to be mistreated in the process. Now, that takes some thinking, and that takes some planning.
Okay.
But it can be done.
So,
the white supremacists are supposing, and they're not even attempting to do it because they believe in white supremacy, and you can't have white supremacy and justice on the same planet at the same time. It doesn't compute.
So in the 9 areas of people activity in the known universe, which is economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, or counter-war, if a system of justice, which you just described, was in place, we wouldn't have any problem.
No, I mean, other than the problems of just continuing that process. I mean, you know, because things do come up, and it's a balancing act, and you got to always make a check.
So we're out of balance.
And every move that you make, you say, now, is somebody going to get mistreated in this? Say, let's get that straight first. This plan that we are making here in this factory or in this office, this plan that we are making, is anybody going to wind up getting mistreated? Or is anybody going to wind up not getting the help that he or she needs, the most constructive help? Because if the answer is no, it means we're going to have another meeting.
So that means that the Creator...
We are going to have another meeting right now because we got a guarantee.
Okay.
But we're not going to have any mistreatment around here.
I got that part, the guarantee.
Right. So
the Creator has put everything in that He created in balance.
Well,
I'm asking. He has put everything in balance?
No, the Creator, I can't see when we came into the world, everything, as far back as I can remember, and everything that I've ever read about, things were never in balance except if you go with the Christian route now. It depends on what religion. That gets into the religion area.
Okay.
Now, some people say in the religion of Christianity that at one time, in something called the Garden of Eden, everything was perfect.
Okay.
But now people, by their conduct, the people who were in that garden, a couple of them, they threw things out of balance, and it's been out of balance ever since.
Ever since, okay. I got that.
Now, that's one religion. But in other religions, they say, oh, that was just a passing thing. I mean, you know, we don't even pay any attention to that.
Okay.
I mean, you know. And then there are other religions, I mean, you know, and, you know, other religions.
Okay.
I mean, different religions say different things.
I got that.
So I simply don't know when it got started.
Okay.
But I do know for a fact that everything is out of balance between people now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be killing each other.
Okay. All right, before we end this segment here, and I'll take that call on the other side, go back to, we were speaking about collusion earlier. So let me get this straight. In order for Kaepernick to proceed in this, you mentioned something about the word collusion. Would that mean that both parties have to agree to what collusion is and then proceed so that the proceedings could be, a court proceeding could be established?
Absolutely.
Okay.
See, language does not, any word doesn't mean anything until the people who are talking, say two people, for example, talking. None of the words that pass between those two persons mean anything until the two people agree that they understand what those words mean.
Now I understand what you're saying. Okay. I got that. See, before I didn't, but yeah, now I do understand. Kaepernick and the NFL have to agree what collusion is before they can proceed on to the charge that they may be in collusion. They have to there has to be an agreement. I got that. Okay.
And the best way to have that agreement, first of all, is to have a definition of a word.
Right.
A word doesn't mean anything.
Establishment of a definition. Establishment of a definition of the word collusion by both parties.
By both parties, and both of them agree that that is the definition.
Okay, and then he can proceed with the charge with a white person, because you said that a black person can't go into a courtroom and make a charge like that.
But a black person can make up a definition for a popular word.
Okay.
I have a definition for the N-word.
Okay.
That is not usually accepted by most people.
Okay.
But I say it's an accurate definition because the N-word doesn't have a definition.
All right.
And that's where its power has been for all these years. And many scholars have not noticed that.
Okay.
I never ran across anybody that did notice it until I noticed it.
Until you noticed it. Okay, let me
I never talked to anybody who ever said that they had noticed, hey, that word doesn't really have a definition.
Okay.
And that's where its power came from.
All right, let me close this one out. TalkTameItRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. on TalkTameItRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard.